ISSER, since 1990, continued to publish its flagship program or report, that is the State of Ghana, Ghanaian Economy Report. And today we are happy to launch the 28th edition of the publication and also present the media review in 2018.
The economy and this report are linked in the sense that it should influence policy framework. The policy should drive businesses. Businesses should show practicality in livelihood.
In the 2018 report, we have 8 chapters, including the optional chapter. Of chapters include the fiscal development, financial and monetary sector, international trade and payments, agricultural sector, industrial sector, services. And then we have an optional chapter on digitization of tax administration and domestic resource mobilization in Ghana.
I contributed to the agriculture chapter of the SGER. Main issues that we addressed this year was about Ghana's dependence on agriculture and how that can create a platform for solving the youth unemployment problem. You know, in Ghana today, we are facing serious unemployment challenges, but the issue is not just unemployment in general, but the fact that unemployment among young, educated people is higher than the national average. So the question is, how do we address this? We argue that one of the ways of addressing this is modernizing our agriculture sector.
In that section, we try to examine how digitization of our tax collection system could help increase the revenues which Ghana indeed needs urgently.
I was one of the authors of the chapters of the flagship publication, the State of Ghanaian Economy Report. Specifically, I wrote the industrial sector.
I'm the author of the services chapter, and this chapter looks at the various components of the sector. We are looking at ICT, we are looking at financial services, we are looking at housing, and we are looking at the contribution of all these different subsectors to the total growth of the services sector.
In 2018, the industry grew by 10.6%, and apparently that was the highest growth that we experienced in comparison with other sectors like agri and services sector. So industry was the highest growing sector in 2018. But if you compare the growth in 2018 to what was achieved in 2017, the growth was actually lower, which means that growth in the industrial sector decelerated somehow in 2018 by about 5 percentage points, which was high.
I authored the third chapter, that is the chapter on monetary and financial sector development, where we find that the target to have stable macroeconomic fundamentals and ensure that the medium-term inflation target is within the range of 8 plus or minus 2%. The outcomes showed that inflation has been reduced to a single-digit level, and inflationary prospects or expectations are not too high on the increase. We find exchange rate depreciation to be close to 10%, slightly higher than what we find in 2017. And we caution that this has repercussions on import duties, it has repercussions on livelihood as well.
So the proposal from this chapter on the trade sector is that given the challenges that the global economy is going through trade because of the trade war between China and the US, and then because of the uncertainty surrounding the Brexit and the European Union. Ghana needs to take advantage of this moment, and also with the African Free Continental Trade Agreement, to begin to focus on new markets and new products and diversify and increase our value into the global value chain, and upgrade our products so that we can get more revenue and create more inclusive development.
Because there are three things we have to look at if we want to get the youth involved in agriculture. We have to look at the productivity, we have to look at the profitability, and then the sustainability of agriculture.
What is the state of the Ghanaian economy? 2018, the state is good. However, there are clouds that we need to disperse to ensure that we can sustain that state.
Ghana's economy is doing well as compared to the Mahama administration. Definitely, we have moved from registering GDP growth of 2%, 3% that we saw during the NDC administration. Akufo-Addo's administration, we are now registering positive 6%, 7%, 8.1% in 2017. That's quite okay, but I think there are still some social and governance challenges that needs to be addressed.
Agriculture and construction, one of the high-risk areas, suffered a decline.
What we have observed in the 2018 State of Ghana Economy Report is that trade did not perform very well in Ghana. We saw that the trade balance has begun to reduce and go to negative, which means that we realized that we imported more than we exported.
The outcome showed that inflation has been reduced to a single-digit level, and inflationary prospects or expectations are not too high on the increase. We find exchange rate depreciation to be close to 10%.
What we have realized over the years is that the services sector contributes the most to GDP. Unfortunately, the sector has not been able to generate a lot of employment for our teeming youth.
I have seen companies that are tax exempt that I tend to question why they are tax exempt.
We want to go beyond 8, and we are not able to raise enough tax revenue in this country. We need to discuss free SHS again. We need to discuss the issue of NAPCO, whether that is a sustainable way of creating jobs, and all the people we put there and we are paying them. We need to discuss some of the ministries that we have set up to see whether they still need to exist.
Then another thing that we saw in 2018 was that much of the growth in the industrial sector was driven by the mineral sector, mineral subsector. So gold, manganese, bauxite, these contributed more to the growth in industry in 2018.
The other part of it in terms of the payout in the event of collapse is this whole thing is not a quantum of the payout. It's not whether you get paid 6,500, which is the maximum. I don't know where Prof got the 10 from. Maybe he's wishing that out of his 1 million. But it's not so much the amount of money you get back from deposit insurance when a bank collapses. This is a behavioral instrument, policy, to narrow the risk appetite that we've had in this country for so long, which is absolutely unhealthy, and is also the basis for the malfeasance, if you put it lightly, that we have seen in the financial services sector.
In conclusion, because I don't want to be controversial, something that needs to change about the Ghanaian economy and hasn't changed is the structure of the economy. Since independence, this has been the structure of the Ghanaian economy, even up to today.
So we can see clearly that 2017 was a much better year than 2018 in most of the indicators we are looking at.
Services sector has the potential to do a lot more for our country if we develop it further. So that is what I can say in a nutshell for the services sector.
So I'm a bit optimistic about the future for Ghana's industry. Just that we need to do more. to ensure that we get growth, but not only growth, but growth that will benefit the masses of the people.
So once again, these are the kinds of very important issues that we need to face and look quite squarely. Our growth indeed is better than the average of Africa, indeed more than twice. And so Ghana is indeed doing quite well in that sense, but it is important for us to be able to improve the structure as a way of sustaining that growth. Thank you.
The agriculture sector in particular is heavily dependent on donor support. What it means is that if there is a shock, an external shock, and donors decide to pull out, right, we will not have sufficient funds to be able to drive our agriculture. So government has to begin looking at other ways of boosting domestic revenues, tax revenue, and also revenue from other sources in order to finance our own agriculture.
Our concern is that everybody should get on board, both tax collectors and taxpayers, because in the end, what digitization does is not only to give money to the country, but also reduces the effort that one puts in and the time wasted and even the associated cost that one must incur before paying their tax.
Yes, targeting employment is very important. A very important point is raised. Each and every time we prepare budgets, we don't talk about the desired level of unemployment or level of employment we are going to create. We throw in numbers. It's just because we are not collecting enough data or up-to-date data on employment. This is why Ghana Statistical Service has to be resourced so that they come out with current data on employment.
I mean, the point is that almost every country borrows. So borrowing is actually part. Even America borrows. So we are not saying that we should not borrow, but there are optimal levels of debt that the economy has to keep, and then also it's about the cost of the borrowing and the sources of the borrowing. That's what we are discussing here. So ISSER is not saying government should not borrow, but we are saying that the borrowing levels are going beyond optimal level. We are getting into distress, and the cost is very expensive. It's taking up a lot of resources that can be used for development activities. And then the sources of the borrowing is coming from external, so it has exchange rate implications and makes it more expensive.
A unique privilege to launch the State of the Ghanaian Economy in 2018 and the Mid-Year Review 2019. So with the permission of the director and all the distinguished writers and reviewers of this book, I want to say the State of the Ghanaian Economy 2018 is duly launched. Thank you very much.